Welcome to another episode of Things We Want in FC 26. This is one of the biggest shows I do on this channel. It's basically a way for the FIFA community to come together and talk about the things they want in the next FC game. There's going to be a lot to talk about, and for the next couple of months we'll be giving EA our feedback on the things we want. If you do enjoy this show, make sure you leave a like for me, share it with a friend, and make sure you subscribe as well to get all the latest episodes. Leave your comments on the things you want to see in FC 26, and I'll do my best to cover a lot of them. Another thing I hate in career mode is the fact that you don't really know how your loan players are going if they don't play in the same competition that you're in. I think in FC 26 career mode, EA should let us track the loaned out players properly. So we've got this loan player out, his name is Vitek, and as you can see, he's played 6 games in the Europa League, which means he is playing for this club out on loan, but the game doesn't track any of the competitions that he's playing in, besides the ones that I'm in, like the Europa League. It doesn't track his actual league that he's in, and the cup competitions from that country as well. For some reason, it has Carabao Cup, Premier League, FA Cup. That's not relevant information in order to check how this player is going. What's the point of sending these players out on loan if I can't actually see how they're actually going in the competitions there? Like I said, this only works with players that are playing in the same competitions. So Sancho, for example, who's at Chelsea at the moment, is playing in the same competitions as Manchester United, so the game is tracking his stats. He's played 2 games in the Carabao Cup, 14 in the Premier League, and at least I get to see how many goals and assists he's been contributing this season. I still don't understand why the game doesn't track the lone player stats if they don't play in the same competitions. Hugh Gill here, for example, has no stats tracked because he doesn't play in the Premier League or any of the other competitions. So I think it's about time they fix this. You want to send your players out on loan, but you want to track them as well. Let's talk about some real face suggestions. I've got 3 players to talk about today. The first one is Rodrigo Moura, who plays for FC Porto. This guy is 17 years old, a cam, 70 overall, but a whopping 88 potential. In FC 25, he does not have a real face, but it's not too bad of a generic face. It could be one of those cranium faces. I'm not too sure about that though, but I do know that eFootball has already given this guy a real face. I don't know how they do it, but they always give out real faces faster than EA does. Next up, we have Giovanni Quenda, who plays for Sporting. This guy's a right mid, 17 years old, 75 overall, 87 potential. In FC 25, he does not have a real face, but surprisingly in eFootball, he also does not have a real face. He's got a generic one. Next up, we have Samu. He plays for FC Porto. He's 20 years old and a striker. He's got a 78 overall, 87 potential. In FC 25, he does not have a real face, of course, but in eFootball, he does have a real face. One thing I think a lot of people would love to see in FC 26 is more real face managers. We do have a lot of managers that we can use in career mode. Of course, if you pick a manager from the Premier League, for example, there is a high chance that he will have a real face, but there will be some managers that do not have a real face still, and that sort of ruins the experience a little bit. I always say that if you're going to pick a manager, make sure they have the real face, because using a manager without the real face can be a little bit of a waste of time. You're better off just creating your own manager instead. I would also like to see more manager faces in different leagues. The French league only has 1 at the moment. The Bundesliga also has 1 manager. So yeah, I would love to see more managers being added in, but also managers with real faces. To me, if you're going to add a manager in and they don't have a real face, like Gattuso for example, it sort of ruins the experience a little bit. At least Cannavaro has a real face. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you still choose a manager even though they don't have a real face in the game? Confidence Mbu says that they should make it that clubs replace their managers in career mode. You start a player career mode and Pep will be a manager till you retire and become a manager, and he'll still be there till you retire as a manager. So I'm guessing Confidence is saying if you do 15 years as a player, then retire, you do 15 years as a manager after that, which equals a 30-year career. I didn't even know that was possible. I never actually tried that. Never got to the end of career modes. But yeah, he's saying that Pep would still be Man City manager, which is very, very unrealistic. It reminds me of this thumbnail that I made. Imagine in career mode, the managers got older and you could see that in their faces as well. This is why we would need some sort of manager replacement thing in career mode, because you've got Manuel Pellegrini, right? 71 years old in real life. Will he still be managing in 15 years when he's 86 years old? Very, very unlikely. Another manager that's pretty old is Ancelotti as well. He's currently 65, a little bit younger than Pellegrini, but once career mode ends in 15 seasons, he would be 80 years old. Would he still be managing Real Madrid at 80? I'm not too sure. Having said that, I think in general it would be nice to have managers getting sacked, getting replaced. It would be nice to see maybe Simeone at Manchester United. It would be nice to see Conte managing at a different club. I'm just giving examples here. You don't want to see the same managers at the same clubs over and over every year. I'm surprised they don't have some sort of manager replacement feature in the game already. Postecoglou at Spurs in 15 years, I find it hard to believe. It would be nice to see him somewhere else in Spain maybe or something like that. But at the moment it's not possible in career mode. Everyone just stays in their place unless you take over the club yourself and that's the only way they get removed, but they don't actually join other clubs, they just sort of get removed from the save. The DJ Loggy says some sort of retro mode. Players either 70s, 80s, 90s or 2000s teams. I think it would be possible because they already have some of the player models from Ultimate Team and Kickoff. I wouldn't go for lower league teams, but maybe Champions League and Premier League, maybe even add a few retro international teams. If EA don't want to do this because there's no money, then make it a DLC. I'm sure it would be popular. I guess there would be a few people that would embrace a retro mode, but I'm just thinking of licensing. It might be a little bit too hard to license players from the 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. I think if EA ever did some sort of retro mode, it would pretty much look like The Journey. This was the closest thing we ever got to a retro mode in FIFA games, and you can see that you've got generic players running around. They don't need to license real players. It won't cost them money. You can see that the stadium is more basic, no ad boards. The scoreboard is very retro, very basic as well. The kits are unlicensed. You don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. You just have the team name basically, which is authentic, and the rest of the things are generic. You can have a pitch that looks pretty old as well, the menus that look old. This would be pretty much a retro mode if EA was to ever do it. I can't see them licensing players from the 70s, the 80s to have authentic stuff, even though it would be nice. Maybe a creation center one day could let the community design these things, but I don't think we would have some sort of creation center in FC games. So this would be basically the way EA would do retro mode if they ever do it in the game, which is not bad. You know, this is a fun experience as well. It doesn't have to be fully licensed. This was fine in The Journey. I had a lot of fun playing this mode. I wish there was more of it. Joel says, I want the ability to control crowd capacity in any game mode. For example, let's say it is a preseason. The stadium is not going to be full. It would be like halfway full. Also, it would be really cool to say no crowds in certain stadiums. I guess they could have a setting for players that want to control the crowd capacity. You could have like halfway, you could have no crowd. Even in kickoff mode, they could definitely throw this sort of setting in where you could play in a stadium with no fans and sort of bring back the older global issue era, can't say the proper word, where there was no crowd and you just watch the players on the field. Another thing I hate in career mode is the fact that you do not get prize money for preseason if you do not win the preseason tournament. It would be nice to get some sort of participation prize money as well. Each preseason tournament advertises prize money, and for some it could be 5 million if you win the competition, but you don't actually get this money, or you don't even get a little bit of that money if you don't win the tournament. They used to give out prize money even if you didn't win the preseason tournament, but then they changed it for some reason when they changed it to a league format. As you can see in this example, we came second in the preseason tournament. I checked my inbox and it looks like we don't even get a couple pounds, you know, just for even coming second. It sort of kills any incentive to try preseason out, to play preseason tournaments. If you knew you could make money out of it, then you would always pick a preseason tournament to play, because sometimes you need that couple extra million in the transfer budget. This was FIFA 22 career mode. As you can see, we came last in the preseason tournament. We didn't even make it out of the groups. Once I went into my inbox, you could see we got an email with additional transfer budget of 1.1 million. Even for coming last, that's still decent money to add to the transfer budget. Even if you didn't want to play preseason, you could just select one and then simulate the games, and you would still pick up a bit of money, which is what I did most of the time anyway. Thank you to my Vapex FC channel members, Chris, Callum, Wing, Duffy Boy and Christian. If you want your name here, make sure you sign up using the link in the description. If you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like for me, make sure you subscribe for more episodes, and hit the thumbnail in the middle to watch another FC25 video.